Seeing a small pullback on Bitcoin here on this chart today. Bitcoin has continued to broadly just kind of stay quite stable at these price zones here, which I think is really, really good news. And I want to cover for you how high I think Bitcoin can go from here. We've already kind of topped out in a potential resistance zone we were looking at, and give you some more updates on everything that we're seeing in the market. So as usual, if you're excited for this, if you're very much looking forward to this like I am, do me a favor and smash up those likes, double check that you're subscribed, because this is very time sensitive content. We'll come back to this stuff in just a second, but keeping it locked to the charts for now. Progress update's pretty damn sweet in my opinion. I mean, you know, I would have loved to see a little bit more upside, but I'm completely fine with how everything's gone so far. We've still stayed above this yellow line, and we're continuing to mature up in this price range. I do think that the chance of us kind of revisiting some of these lows are increasing, given the fact that Bitcoin hasn't quite produced that breakout yet. You know, obviously we've already been moving up, and we've kind of just been slowly pacing ourselves higher. But you know, a lot of the time, you know, we do tend to see quite quick, rapid movements in this price range, and we haven't quite seen something just like that at the moment. And that doesn't mean that we're behind schedule. I do want to give you guys a kind of sense of time from this occasion here until hitting the top. It did take Bitcoin 4 days. You know, on this occasion, obviously, it all pretty much happened on 1 day, but you know, from here again to the top, that was about a 3-day journey. On this occasion here, it was kind of, again, just kind of 1 day. So it is going to vary, and so far, kind of from testing this zone to today, it has been about 2 days. So I think we've got a little bit more time in order to do this quickly. And even if we don't do it quickly, I think that we're still in the same bullish structure. It just means that we're not moving as quickly as I would want it to, but that's also completely fine. And it doesn't, you know, the fact that we don't move quickly is not going to mean that the price is low, right? Unless the price actually loses support, I think that we're still in the same super bullish situation. It's more going to be a case of when, not if, Bitcoin reaches to the top of this range. That's in my opinion, at least. So the first key thing that I think is really important before we continue on is talking about those kind of invalidations. And, you know, for me, it's the same level that we've been looking at for quite some time now. And by the way, I've got some really interesting traditional finance stuff and some cool tweets I want to cover with you all. So we're going to be doing that in this video as well. Make sure you are smashing up those likes and staying tuned for that as we go on in this video. But the clear invalidation level that I'm seeing is going to be the same kind of zone that I'm drawing these green lines at right now at about $67,000. This is ridiculously useful as a level in the market, and it has been useful as resistance. In fact, we initially found a little bit of resistance here, which sent the price a little bit lower, and now we've found support here. So this is still going to be my level of invalidation. Very, very useful level. It's been a useful level since, you know, close to the beginning of this year. So those of you that have been watching this YouTube channel, that have been subscribed for some time, you're actually going to be very intimately familiar with this support level, and I still think that this could be quite a good thing for Bitcoin. So I'd actually, at this point, I'd like to see Bitcoin kind of come back down here, you know, retouch this, reconfirm it as kind of support, and then continue on higher. And the other kind of side benefit that that's going to bring on for Bitcoin is just that, you know, we've really been seeing our indicators mature for Bitcoin here. I mean, on the 4-hour time frame, you know, we've got some pretty decent support from the Ichimoku cloud in about 4 or 5 days from now. It's actually going to be moving up, so probably about 5 days from now it's going to be lining up with this $57,000 level, which is absolutely great. But if we take a look at this with the EMA ribbon, for example, on the 4-hour, we're damn near in it. I mean, we can drop by another couple $100 and we're in this EMA ribbon, which is actually, I think, a pretty good thing. It's a really good zone of support, and on the daily time frame we continue moving up as well. So, you know, if this thing wants to take it slow, this is what I'm saying, right? If, I mean, in this zone things typically happen quickly, but if the market wants to take it slow, my god, there's a ton of support for Bitcoin waiting for it. You know what I mean? Like, we can go quick and then it would be what we expect, or we can go slow and it's going to be even easier for Bitcoin to move up. That's in my opinion, right? Because you've got these huge, I mean, look at this spread on the EMA ribbon. It's such a healthy ribbon right now. You've got this huge support band right here, kind of moving up toward Bitcoin right now at quite, you know, quite a pace, I would say. It's moving quite quickly, you know, and so that's definitely going well for Bitcoin. And on the hourly, you know, we've got also the Ichimoku cloud, and we're very nearly in it. So this could honestly be what Bitcoin is waiting for. I honestly believe that to be the case. I mean, the hourly Ichimoku cloud is such a reliable indicator that I think, you know, if we do kind of fall into it or just even trade sideways into it, that could also be kind of what sets this thing off. Now, the big thing to keep in mind is that it is a weekend. It's a Saturday, obviously. So, you know, we're not expecting crazy things to happen to traditional finance during this weekend. But what it does mean, in my opinion, is that, you know, this is kind of where some of the more, you know, this is where the fuckery happens, okay? Yeah, just to get straight to the point, this is where the fuckery happens, this particular price, you know, this particular kind of time of the week. And if Bitcoin, you know, was going to do something about that, which, you know, oftentimes it does. Obviously, oftentimes it does actually do some crazy shit on the weekends. Then, you know, there's some real possibility for the market to kind of try and get that, you know, continuation, you know, tonight or tomorrow. Speaking of traditional finance, though, you know, I mentioned to you guys some cool updates here, and this is really, really good news in my opinion. I mean, you know, the S&P 500 has been, you know, so strong lately, and I think it's been working really well for Bitcoin. I mean, right here we saw a pullback followed by now just some sideways continuation. Such beautiful body language for a chart that's going to continue trending up. I mean, I am absolutely in love with what I'm seeing there. And the dollar, on the other hand, has really started to kind of turn around as it approached that resistance level that I was outlining. This is actually, so far, there's the most significant pullback that the dollar has had since it bottomed out. Take a look at this, 0.4%, 0.37. It's really not that big, but if we compare it to some of its other moves, actually, this was a 0.37 correction as well, and so is this. So actually in line, my bad, it's not bigger. We'll see if this does develop and become into something which is a little bit bigger than what we saw before with the dollar. But if this does kind of really turn into a more mature reversal for the dollar, then, I mean, I think we're golden for Bitcoin. And if it doesn't, then, you know, the real resistance zone is only slightly higher, and that is still where I would expect the dollar to at least temporarily, you know, something maybe like coming down to about 102 before continuing on up. At least temporarily, I think it could come down, if not more permanently, you know, and then we could be slipping much lower, and that would really mean a very strong bull market for Bitcoin, which I think would be absolutely great. And by the way, obviously we were talking about the election. Those of you that are, you know, really making sure to kind of watch this content on this YouTube channel, you're going to remember that we had the election video that I made, really nice, highly edited video, and we were talking about how, you know, oftentimes the markets are quite bullish leading into election cycles, and you know, it's worth noting that at the time we were recording this video right now, there's about 16, 17 days left until the election actually happens in the United States, and the S&P 500 is at all-time highs. So once again, proven 100% correct. In fact, it's similar for Bitcoin. Bitcoin's usually kind of setting all-time highs, or, you know, doing something quite exciting at election time. And again, this picture is really coming together now to paint a very kind of bullish environment for Bitcoin around that election season. So I think that's also kind of telling us a lot about what could be happening in this market here. Definitely some very exciting stuff going on here, in my opinion. And I think it all starts off with this particular support level here at the $67,000 price range. As long as this level holds, we are in a very good place. And if it doesn't hold, then we're just going to have to come down to some longer term zones of support, as far as I'm concerned, which are going to be about 63 and 61, as I've outlined before. There are more kind of interim support levels between here and 61k. 63k is what I would consider to be an interim kind of, you know, midway support level for Bitcoin, something that I would say is not crazy. It's not the best zone of support Bitcoin's ever going to have. It's not the worst, but I certainly wouldn't call it notable. You know, you got tons of levels like that between here and 61, but the chart would just get too messy if I showed them all to you. So you're going to see, you know, different, you know, you're going to do your analysis, you're going to see different numbers, you're going to see other people on YouTube or Twitter or whatever showing different numbers. The big levels, as far as I'm concerned, really are 67 and 61, you know, and I'd say that those are kind of the most important levels. I'm actually quite happy to keep the chart like this, but I think instead of just, you know, fully deleting these boxes, what I could do is just make them even more transparent, you know, just to kind of really highlight the other one, because I think it's so important that we visualize these levels appropriately. I mean, you know, 61k and 67 are so strong that I just don't think that they should be kind of grouped together, you know, the way that, you know, it looked a few minutes ago. So I think that's going to be pretty important. If we switch it over to Bitcoin's dominance here, it's dipped ever so slightly lower. That's not really resulting in any significant change for big altcoins like Ethereum, but smaller coins, which you know, are a little bit more speculative, have been interesting. There's been WIF, which has been doing some bits here, really waking up, I think, actually over these last few days. And this isn't even a super conclusive chart. Let's look at 𝐁𝐥𝐸, which has a little bit more price history, and you know, WIF has kind of hit a macro zone of resistance here. Doge has also hit its macro zone of resistance that we've had outlined on this chart. We've been looking at this chart every video for the past few videos, and we've had these lines drawn for many months. And just look at how beautifully you know, we're finding resistance exactly where we expect twice in a row, which is absolutely great. And so I think that now that Doge has actually managed to get above this zone of resistance in the 12-cent range, I can't believe I'm saying this, but this is actually looking a little bit like a long now. I don't know where I would go long on this chart. It's fucking Doge, for God's sakes. You know, it's really not an easy coin to trade. You know, but I think as far as kind of potential orders could go. Here is kind of a super rudimentary, back of the napkin type idea I've just come up with here. 9.4% down, 16% up, but obviously naturally because it's, Doge, you'd be targeting much higher levels. So that looks interesting. Obviously, Doge is available to trade on all of the platforms that I use. Bybit's still the best, there's no doubt about it, and they're giving you $30,000 to trade with when you start using my link below. So depending on how much you trade with, you're going to get up to 30k that you can trade with, and any profits that you generate with that money are going to be yours to withdraw as well, which is super, super cool. Blowfin is another phenomenal alternative. Huge players here, big volume. You've probably not even heard about them unless you watch this channel, but they are I think comparable to Bybit and well worth checking out. Their bonuses are even more aggressive than Bybit, and you can again start trading on Blowfin using this link down below. Those of you that have used it have been loving it, which is amazing to see. But always be mindful of your regulations in your country before you start using any of these platforms. Just to make sure that you're allowed to. But like I said, Doge is obviously going to be available on all of them, and it's whatever, it's available everywhere. I think this is actually a very tight stop loss, but it's hard to choose a stop loss on this coin. That's kind of the problem, right? I mean, this is all of a sudden a much better setup now. You still got the same 16% up, but only 4% downside, but now these wicks are going to be a problem. So I don't know. I think that it's definitely interesting. Do you know what I'm going to do actually is I'm just going to go ahead and set alerts, right? I'm just going to set one alert down here. But if Doge does kind of get down to the bottom of this kind of 12-cent range again, I mean, I think that is going to be a potential kind of buy. It's just a case of seeing how far and if at all it does retrace. And that's the point, is that we are seeing, some real kind of awakenings in the market, but just in a couple of weird places. I think that this is all quite short-lived, and I think that this is really, really just kind of waiting for Bitcoin to do something. And as soon as Bitcoin kind of snaps back into a trend or, does something that's particularly interesting, I think that any gains or any movement or anything at all that's going on in the altcoin market, I think it's going to abruptly end, and it's going to abruptly kind of step to the side and just let Bitcoin kind of continue to steal the show. And then the end result of that is probably going to be an even higher Bitcoin dominance. And I think that, this is going to continue going up at the loss of, the meme coins that are up right now. And so on. I just still don't think that it's altcoin time just yet. So I think that's going to be a pretty big deal. Before we carry on and talk about the upside and all-time highs and stuff, let's take a look at a couple of tweets. We got Titan of Crypto here saying that acceleration is coming, showing a massive ascending channel for Bitcoin that stretches all the way back to 2017, basically indicating that right now we're kind of messing about at the midpoint of this parallel ascending channel, and we could be headed to the top. This is a super vague chart, but accordingly, 800 likes to match it. But yeah, I do think it's completely, I actually, even though it's really vague, I actually really agree with this type of analysis. I mean, we're drawing consistent lows and consistent highs. We've got a midpoint, which I think is really important for these kind of parallel channels. And I think that we're just ready. So, I mean, I actually see this happening. I just think that it's a little bit of a funny chart, the way it's so vague. Here's something interesting. We got $50 million worth of USDC transferred from the treasury to Coinbase. Obviously, when we see big amounts of dollars moving around, the implication is that we could be seeing some buying action, because what can you do with dollars in crypto? You can buy stuff, right? Unless you take it to, something with derivatives, and then you can actually go short, which would be a little bit worse for the market. But this is Coinbase, and on Coinbase you can't do stuff like that. Coinbase can only, kind of buy and sell normally. And so naturally, if you got a shit ton of cash moving onto Coinbase, you might expect some buys coming in. Now, obviously, if it was flipped around and there were $50 million worth of Bitcoin transferred to Coinbase, then we would actually be thinking, hang on a minute, why would you move Bitcoin? Would it be, because you want to sell some Bitcoin, which is obviously, I think something that a lot of people would be speculating on. But right now, it's going to be the opposite, which I think is, it's good. It's not great. It's not bad. And most likely, it's neutral. Most likely, it means nothing, just like normal. But, as usual, people are going to speculate. We have this additional layer of, we can't see this in the banking system, right? If somebody transferred $50 million from their whatever, I don't know, like from their Chase account into their brokerage account, we wouldn't know, and we wouldn't, and let's say that broker was specialized, like Coinbase is specialized in crypto. Let's say that broker was specialized in tech stocks. We wouldn't be able to anticipate a tech boom because of that, in terms of stock prices. Because we don't have this layer of information, but with crypto we do. So yeah, whatever, it's interesting. And I found this one super funny. Bitcoin hits 69k, but I remember that I bought it at 75k this year, and you got a guy prematurely celebrating getting super happy. Take a look at this, and then running back, saying, hang on a minute, a little bit too early to celebrate. And obviously this perfectly encapsulates how most of the crypto space is, right? I mean, Bitcoin's still not at all-time highs. It's still, a decent way away. I mean, 8% away, it's whatever. It's not huge, but it's definitely not tiny. And these altcoins, meanwhile, they are so far away from their all-time highs that they set in 2021. I mean, we're just taking a random example here with Matic. I know it's not trendy anymore, but, what's trendy and what's not trendy in the altcoin market changes so easily that I just stick to the majors. I'm like, I mean, you guys are, like, changing where you're looking every fucking 2 minutes, and that's just your thing. But I don't move like that. I don't know. Maybe I'm old. I don't think it's that I'm old. Maybe it's that I trade with serious amounts of money that I have to respect. Maybe it's literally just that simple. I don't know. But we do have 1,000 days really since Matic has been at all-time highs, and in terms of percent, it's 700% away from there, or in other words, it's down by 87%. So it's going to take an 8 times gain at this point to recover back up to that all-time high. And this is a very common picture. You can kind of pick whatever coin that you want to look at. And you're generally going to see something similar, even on coins that have been performing, significantly better compared to others. Still 160% away SEI from its all-time high compared to Bitcoin. I mean, you can keep going for ages on this. ARB has just died like nothing else. 330% up. FTM, another one that's got a lot of people's hearts. Again, 400. They're just so far away from their all-time highs right now. Yet what you have are people celebrating moves that are, where the coin triples in value within like 90 days. And then everyone's like, okay, this is great. We're getting our X's back. But meanwhile, you're still far away from those all-time highs. And I think that's really important, right? Because a lot of people in this crypto space, they do celebrate, the tiny wins that have been showing. I mean, there's been, there have been some real winners lately. I think SUI was actually one of the ones that's still setting all-time highs. So, this is kind of going to be one of the real exceptions. But most coins don't have a chart that looks like this, especially the ones that you yourself are holding. They're probably coins like DOT, which is just so far away from its all-time high. 1,200%, an absolute obliteration. That is what I would call an absolute obliteration. But again, from the lows, up to the current price, 22%. I mean, I don't know, this isn't that exciting, but some people are definitely going to be running kind of laps around this 40% move to the upside. And it's like, no, you need to maintain perspective. This is still moving really badly, and I think that's why this tweet is really funny, because this should be the initial reaction of anybody that finds themselves celebrating. And the reason I'm taking this huge tangent in this video to talk about this is to make one point very clear on this YouTube channel. It's one of the points that we hammer a lot. Those of you that have been in VIP for years are going to know about this very well, and those of you that are interested in getting access to a one-to-one program with me, it lasts 12 weeks, super serious, with a serious investment. Don't reach out if you're not willing to be super serious about this. You can reach out to me using this link, and we will get you inside the program that has had phenomenal results. I mean, it's a big investment fee. It's not cheap, but we've had people saving themselves from losses that are easily 10-50 times bigger than the fee that they paid, and of course people making money significantly more than the fee that they paid as well. So this is going to depend on how serious you are and if you're willing to make a serious investment into yourself. But if that is you, then definitely reach out using this link on screen here, and we can give you something pretty good. But one of the big reasons that I'm making this whole tangent is to drive home one particular lesson that I've been driving home for many years, which is that if you have the ability to extract happiness, or more importantly, to extract excitement, right? If you can if you can get excited about these markets, then it also means that you can get upset, and it also means that you can get fearful, and it also means that you are generally tying your emotional and therefore your decision making, but you're generally tying your emotional well-being to the markets. And that is a very bad place to be, in my opinion, ladies and gents. You actually want to be very detached from it, to the point where, maybe not as far as me, and especially off camera, but maybe exactly as far as me, actually. You'd probably want to be like me, where you can be sitting in a $200,000 2,000% gain, and off camera, you're just fucking indifferent to it. You couldn't care less. You just standing there scratching your leg, wondering, all right, what's for dinner? Am I having steak and potatoes tonight, or is it something? I mean, you know what I mean? Like, just completely indifferent and not giving a fuck about what's going on in the market, regardless of if you're making money or not. That's really the only kind of power position you can be in if you want to make money in these markets. There are going to be other people that kind of deviate from this, or people that are close in certain ways but don't quite do it. Look, anything that's not exactly what I described is going to be a compromise. It's not going to be a small compromise. It's going to be a big compromise. And it's very important to keep these things in mind in this market, because if you don't, and if you do get excited by things like this, then what's going to happen? This whole market is just entirely FOMO driven. It's all fear of missing out. And so if you don't keep stuff like this in mind, you're going to get swept away with every single wave of hype. Every single wave. I've seen it a million times. I've seen it with the same dumb motherfuckers that have been in this space for 5, 6, 7 years. They just don't learn their fucking lesson. A lot of people do it, who've been in the space for 1 to 3 years. And only really the smart people figure it out. If you want to be smart, then here you go. Here's your message. That tying yourself to these emotional thrills is going to be a disaster for you. You're just not going to make money in these markets. You're not going to be able to. You're going to be late to everything. You're going to be shit at everything that you do. But if you take a very different approach, the kind of approach that I'm describing, where nothing excites you, nothing makes you happy, nothing therefore makes you sad as well, you're just going to be able to put every single, every step that you take, you're going to be putting your best foot forward, and you're going to be doing incredibly well in this market. And it's also going to mean that you won't be riding shit coins like this to the fucking bottom and then getting excited by a 50% or 20% or 200% or 400% pump, because you'll still be 80% away from your all-time high. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's really, really important. I would rather, bottom line, beyond everything else that we're talking about, I would rather make money in this market than anything else, right? Rather than have a sense of camaraderie or a sense of community, or be invested into a project emotionally, or even have fun. Fuck it. I don't want any of it. I just want the money. And if I'm coming into it with that approach, then naturally I'm going to find myself in Bitcoin 8% away from its all-time high, rather than a shitcoin 700% away from its all-time high, and then getting excited about that. Really, really important stuff. A lot of people miss shit like this, but that's what you come to this YouTube channel for. If you do appreciate it, do me a favor and smash up those likes, and of course double check that you're subscribed, because this is exactly what you're going to get on this YouTube channel. Really, really important, hard-hitting technical analysis, facts, and principles that I use to trade in these markets. Like I said, anyone that wants to kind of get access to our one-to-one program, you can do that by following this link on screen right here, and that's going to get you in a direct chat with me where you can get information about this. But really, really important stuff there, and I think that that's actually going to benefit a lot of people kind of knowing stuff like that, because it just makes us more emotionless. It makes us more able to, like I said, put our best foot forward and make our best decisions that we possibly can. But as far as kind of upside here, like I said, interim support resistance levels exist. There are levels that are kind of between where we are now and the 71, 72k level. I've got one of them drawn over here. We were talking about it on a recent YouTube video. It's whatever. I don't think it's anything crazy. I don't think it's worth looking at too much. But overall, I think that we're still kind of poised to get up there, and I still think that all-time highs are going to be very, very easy to get to afterwards as well, which is absolutely great. And I think the other final kind of thing that I want to talk to you about is this kind of parallel channel, this zone that Bitcoin. I mean, there's so many different ways people have drawn this. It's weird because it feels like no one's really talking about it anymore, but because we kind of just already broke out, and now like it's already out of the news cycle. I don't know, it's whatever. There are a lot of different ways, like I said, to draw this, right? And there are so many ways that you can do this, and they all kind of look correct. I think there are some ways that look a little bit more like a real breakout than others. This looks like a pretty real breakout to me. But obviously this looks a little bit less like a breakout. So, there's going to be different people who see this chart differently. I actually think that obviously, this is going to be one of the more fair ways to draw it. And even from this perspective, connecting the lows and the highs quite consistently, we have still broken out. So it's not a big breakout. It's still definitely possible for this to be a fake out. But I think that it's pretty good. And by the way, just take note of how reliable this midpoint is. By the way, look at how useful this midpoint has been in terms of showing us where we might find resistance, or showing us where we might find support. I mean, just such a reliable level here. So these midpoints are really slept on, but very, very important in my opinion in these markets here. So that's cool. One other thing that I want to do while we're here, why not, while we're here, is I want to, let's go ahead and remove every single drawing on this chart, and I want to go ahead and throw a fib on this, and just see what our fib is showing us from our absolute low to our all-time high. And we are at 236 resistance right now, so that's very interesting. Let's stretch it down, and we are above 236 resistance, so that's pretty cool. And look at that, we nearly actually got our 618 bottom, it slightly overshot it, and then this one slightly undershot it. But clearly 618 still serving as some sort of gravitational pull for the market, which I think is quite interesting. So there you go, ladies and gents. I'm glad that well, I don't know, have you enjoyed it? I hope you've enjoyed it. I'm glad you have. If you have, you know what to do. If you have, smash up those likes. I've got so far ahead of myself that I just assumed you've enjoyed this video, but I'm sure you have. And if you have, do me a favor, smash up those likes, double check that you're subscribed, and get your free money. There's free money waiting for you when you start using these platforms, and you don't have to do shit for it. All you've got to do is start trading, doing the same trades you already do after you've signed up using my links, and they are going to give you the money for free into your account, and you can withdraw any profits you make with that capital. Again, as usual, just make sure that you're allowed to do this in your country of residence or citizenship. But there you go. Hope you enjoyed this one. You know what to do, and I'll see you all in the next one. Cheers.